All right, let's get right into this. So, unfortunately, just before we did the video, but basically the connection wasn't proper and was having a difficult time. And I noticed that this tends to happen when I do videos about politics, specifically about those things related to whichever administration is currently in and how it's going. So, please let me know if the sound is okay. Let me know if the video is okay, and we'll keep rocking and rolling from here. With that said, we need to understand some of the basics as to what are actually going on so that you have a full understanding as kind of like the future of where this program is headed. So I just want to go through some basic things real quick. There has been reported as of 2 days ago that essentially at least 5 of the 8 regional commissioners whose offices oversee and support the agency's frontline offices, and this is directly from governmentexecutive.com. Basically, they've agreed to go ahead and step down at this point. And so some of them have been there for 20 years, 30 years, 35 years, etc. But the SSA, from an executive position, a commissioner level position, or at least regional commissioner position, I mean, the commissioner has been swapped out, have officially begun the process of stepping down. So that means that a lot of the leadership at the regional level, they're having to go through a lot of changes quickly. Now, there's another thing that you need to understand as well. The SSA is now expected to cut around 7,000 jobs to try and match up with President Trump's executive orders when it comes to shrinking down the government. Let me read to you a little bit about this. This is from by Ashley Lopez. Here we go. The Social Security Administration announced Friday that it aims to cut 7,000 jobs to align with an executive order from President Trump to broadly slash the federal workforce. The planned job cuts are raising concerns about staffing at the agency that disperses retirement benefits as well as disability and survivor benefits to tens of millions of Americans. Quote, the agency plans to reduce the size of its bloated workforce and organizational structure with a significant focus on functions and employees who do not directly provide mission critical services, the SSA said in the news release Friday afternoon. Social Security recently set a staffing target of 50,000, down from the current level of approximately 57,000 employees, which ironically, considering what's going on, the SSA can't find enough employees to go ahead and keep it going. They have a massive attrition because employees keep quitting. They train him and then they leave because they don't pay him enough because the GS levels, which is the standard government levels for paying people, are way too low because of the Biden inflation slash economy shit show that we've been going through. Advocates say long wait times for services have plagued the agency for years, and its current staffing is already at about a 50-year low. So just to be clear, some people will argue that the SSA needs essentially, just to be fair, around 70,000 people to run it, 90,000 people to run it, 120,000 people to run it. It should have somewhere around 90,000 for us to have proper customer service. It doesn't, right? It's been shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. And when it gets below 50,000, it turns into a total complete bleeping shit show. And the reason why is because they don't have enough people to process and do the things that they need to do to have it actually work. So as a result of that, you're about to see wait times for everything go full on, full tilt shit show. And what do I mean by that? Okay, so remember, you go back like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, 5, 6 years, stuff like that. Basically, Commissioner Saul era, not that he was a great guy, but that's when things were still, glued together before it started to fall apart and delaminate. The whole point is, it would take maybe 3 to 6 months to go through an initial disability application, right? 3 to 6 months, you file, 3 to 6 months later, you're going to get a decision. Whether an approval or denial, you're going to get a decision later. Well, now it takes on average with most of these claimants around 12 to 20 months. Again, 12 to 20 months. You'll have people in here who basically are pushing to say, what the hell, man? It took me 2 years at the initial filing level. And that's one of the big issues that you run into is that if you file disability benefits on your own, it almost always takes longer. So the bottom line is this. Unfortunately, it's just one of those gigs where it's going to take even longer to be found disabled. It's going to be even more of a rocky road. And there's just not going to be enough people to really make this thing come together. So let's talk about some of the basics here, okay, so that everybody understands where we're coming from with this. The SSA, right, we have to gauge what a potential collapse looks like, because some people would say a collapse is when 30,000 people wait every year to be found disabled and die while waiting to be found disabled. So an entire block, a military block of personnel, right, 30,000 people, right? That was the wrong term, but you know what I mean. 30,000 people die just waiting for disability benefits to be granted each year. That to me is in itself a collapse of our Social Security disability system. Some people will need more than that. Okay, well, perhaps if, the Social Security Administration has to shutter its offices to walk ins so that you have to set an appointment through a phone system, which takes 30 to basically an hour and a half to go ahead and get somebody on the phone to set an appointment to go to the office, where basically a lot of people are having a difficult time setting the stage for even getting an appointment to go to one of the offices, which they used to be able to 3, 4 months ago, just walk into the office and talk with somebody. That to me, the closure of the people's house, which is essentially their ability to go ahead and go get an update, a status update that day from the Social Security Administration's field office. When you're not able to do that and you are basically restricted, that to me as well is a collapse of the Social Security Administration. Well, okay, fine, fine. Some of you need more than that. Real quick, I just want to do a shout out to Royalty. She did a $5 donation. I really, really appreciate that. I'm just giving you guys a heads up. Some of these donations are probably going to go to Shadow Surgery. I was up until 4 a.m. last night studying basically total hip replacements on dogs, and it is horrific. It is absolutely scary. But again, Royalty, you've been with us for a zillion years, and I super appreciate that. Harry Bear did a $5 donation as well. That's absolutely amazing. Celebrating my upcoming hearing date. All the best, all the best. Make sure you call in during one of the live sessions, Mondays and Thursdays, and I'll run questions with you during the live session so I can kind of get you ready. But super congrats, Harry Bear. Royalty 72 again. Thank you, thank you. Will do. Thank you for the $2 donation. I will give them some hugs and snuggles. So they're doing well. I got shout out to my left, and then Sweetie's like right over there. So they're doing really, really well. All right. So some of you want more when it comes to the SSA actually collapsing. Some of you expect more than just 30,000 people a year dying waiting for benefits to be granted. Some of you want more than the office is shuttering and you now have to set an appointment. But in order to set an appointment, you have to wait on the phone for 30 minutes to an hour and a half to be able to set an appointment to even go to the SSA. Some of you want more than that for it to be considered a collapse. All right. Well, before we get to that, I need you to understand 5 or 6 things that make the SSA successful. That way we can talk about what the future of the SSA is going to be like over the next 3 to 4 months. Okay. There's 5-ish things that the SSA needs, sometimes more, sometimes less, in order to be successful. Okay. It needs money, put another way, funding for its staff, tech offices, programs, office supplies, innovation, and legislative policies. You heard me right on the last one. The SSA is not at the point where it has to be funded to be able to fight our own politicians to be able to survive. If the SSA does not innovate, it will die because it can't afford to do business, okay, in the old ways when the dollar, is essentially devalued so significantly. All across the nation, private companies, public companies, government companies, all that stuff, all of them are struggling, okay? To be fair, and I make very middle videos, some of you disagree, but then you're usually on the extreme left or the extreme right, where you have the prophets who believe they are God, or you have the people who have like the super multicolored hair who are screaming that they're the majority. You have to understand, like, I'm in the middle on this thing. So, and really, it's more for the benefit of the Social Security Administration so you understand exactly what's going on and how bad things actually are. So, as a result of this, you've got to understand that we have commissioners literally going directly in front of the Social Security Administration, in front of the senators, in front of the House reps, that are sending letters to the president begging for more money to make this thing work. They're literally begging at this point to make this thing work. And what's weird is that the congressional leaders don't understand that if they want people to vote for them, if they want people to be happy, you have to understand that they have to be able to get access to the benefits that they paid for throughout their entire life. Some people pay in a year, some people never pay in a year, some people pay in 40 years, some people pay in 20 years. But the point is, people are going to be pissed. This was not a smooth move for Republicans. Okay. It wasn't. And look, I'm going to stay middle with this. I'm not going to beat up on the Republicans too hard. And sometimes I beat up on the Republicans too hard. And sometimes I beat up on the Democrats too hard. Sometimes I do that. But this was a very poor maneuver, very poor choice for the Republicans because it creates a program that can't afford itself. Now, with that said, there are some things, right, where essentially it's a smart business move to go ahead and be tough, right? Being tough with Zelensky, very, very, very smart. A lot of people are not business owners. A lot of people are not employers. A lot of people have never interacted with CEOs and in C-level, C-suite executives, stuff like that. So they don't know. But that's how those negotiations go. They just don't usually happen in politics in front of us. It's usually back doors, where we're going into some room that nobody can hear what's actually going on. But if you go look at the history of, negotiations, right? That's how it works. You go, look, you want to see a negotiator who's even way more cutthroat, but was basically one of the greatest innovators of all time. Go look at Apple computers. Go look at Steve Jobs. He would scare the shit out of other employers at a level that Trump never even comes close to. But again, most of the American public doesn't understand how those negotiations usually go. So the bottom line is, in that situation, they're being tough, they're being good, they're making business agreements, they're pushing, they're doing this, they're making a deal come into existence, right? The problem is, that's a good example of it. This is a terrible example of it. Okay. They don't have the people at the SSA to properly pay you, to properly fix something, to properly administer benefits at the extreme low amount of people that they already have as it is right now. Now, another thing, we talked about the money. They need more money to go ahead and run the SSA. Another thing that they need is that they need skilled and talented people, which is hard to get when your GS payment levels in the federal government are so ridiculously low. All right, real quick, I want to do a Lisa Boston. Thank you for the $4.99 donation. I love the little cloud animation there. That's awesome. Puerto Rican Mike, howdy, good sir. Let's see. He's saying he's trying to privatize and make it fail. Medicaid, Medicare, people need to wake up. Passport is ready. Yeah, well, I mean, you're Puerto Rican Mike, but Puerto Rico, I mean, you're still within the U.S. based system. So, I mean, I don't know. Puerto Rican Mike, where are you going? Like, what's the plan here? Next one, Jackie H. Thank you for the $19.99 donation. I super appreciate it. Just a heads up again, some of these are going to go basically to shadow surgery. So, just a heads up. It's just I don't know if you've watched those videos, but like they drill all the way through that leg and they put a metal thing all the way down and then they cement it. It's a huge, I didn't realize how big of a deal it was, but all right. So he needs the SSA needs skilled and talented people. They need tech, administrative, legal, judicial, cleaning, organizing, actuarial, you name it. They need skilled and talented people, which is a bitch to get when you can't pay them that much, which is exactly where they're at when it comes to the GS payment levels, which are the general levels for what they pay people at the SSA. It also needs, number 3, modern and well-upkept technology that can grow at an even and organized rate. 23 new AI systems are integrated, right now. 5 years from now, it'll be 30. And then at some point, you'll have some sentient quasi, supercomputer working on, quantum technology that'll go ahead and process all the stuff throughout the SSA. And then, of course, we won't need that many employees, but we ain't there yet. We're not even close. So we need more time. It's absolutely crucial. We need more time. Okay. Now, with that said, the next thing that we need at the SSA that is absolutely crucial is we need an internal and external checks and balances system. Okay. Now, when Commissioner Martin O'Malley came in, he started to integrate that system, which is ironic because now the Republicans are using it to go ahead and figure out who basically they want to get rid of. So the bottom line is O'Malley put a system in to measure employees, measure productivity, stuff like that. Now the Republicans are using it to go ahead and see who's really good, who's not really good. So with that said, it needs to fight scams, fraud, similar fault, waste, and missed opportunities, fighting those who harm the Social Security Administration and those who basically rightfully sue it. It's got to fight those as well. Now, the final thing that it pretty much needs is, and this is the most important by far. Out of all the things, this is the most important. The Social Security Administration has to have public trust and transparency. Without this, Americans will demand their money back, and a new program may never take its place ever. Did you ever think about that? The SSA couldn't afford to pay back Americans what they paid into it if the Supreme Court just ruled that retirement and disability benefits were illegal, like an illegal tax on the American people. So the SSA right now doesn't have the money, which is, I guess, where we need to ask the basic question. If they don't have the money to pay us back what we paid in, then we have, future generations and yada yada, because it is a bit of a Ponzi scheme, but it still should have much more money to it than it currently does. If they don't have the money to pay for us, right, or to pay us back, to settle things out, at least to some degree, a reasonable percentage, then we have to ask ourselves, who do we criminally investigate? Do we criminally investigate politicians? Do we criminally investigate the federal government? Who needs to be jailed? But who is willing to push that as well? Right now, we face a new issue. Will the SSA collapse? And let's see basically how the SSA, will potentially be dealing with this in the future. Let's go through what the definition of a collapse is. Here, let's go right to Google. and look up collapse. So a collapse is, just so you guys have a definition of it. We're not going to do the Black's Law Dictionary because that's the traditional dictionary. We'll do the one that most people use, which is Oxford language. Okay, it is a fall down or in, a give way, a cause to fall or in or give way. It is basically, let's see, a fall down and become unconscious. It is a fold or be folded to fit into a small space. It is, where's my business one here? Here it is, an instance of a structure falling down or in. So to be very clear, what is happening is this system, the structure, the whole system that we have is starting to essentially not be able to provide services in a timely fashion and not in the future be able to provide services in total. And the reason why is if they have a program problem, they don't have enough people, including tech people, including people to process benefits to get it all done. Now, let's talk about something real quick. All right, over here, what we have is an interesting thing. All right, right here. So right now, this is not just a uniquely SSA thing. They are also going after VA benefits and the Veteran Affairs Department. They're now producing that more than 2,000 VA employees have been laid off nationwide per Trump and Doge's order to cut costs and create efficiency. This is specifically from WSF by Mahika Kudde. The list of employees laid off by the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs grew longer on Monday as 1,400 probationary workers were let go. That adds to about 1,000 employees laid off in the first round of VA firings on February 13th. While an exact number of area layoffs is difficult to nail down, the firings have already reached multiple Tampa Bay region veteran hospitals. At least 3 VA employees, including some at James A. Haley Veterans Hospital in Tampa, were laid off. And basically, they're just going to keep going and going until they can meet whatever staff goals they've placed for essentially the executive order for the Republicans. It's not good. We just don't have the money to keep doing this. Now, I want to explain something else because I think it's very, very important. Okay. A spokesperson for the AFGE, which is the SSA General Committee, which is like, your union on behalf of the SSA employees. The union represents roughly 42,000 Social Security workers. They told NPR AFGE is adamantly opposed to any mass layoffs of its workers, whether frontline or support staff. Frontline workers directly support beneficiaries, the number of whom he said increases by 10,000 people daily. Okay, so I just want to help you understand something real quick. Math here, okay? Frontline workers directly support beneficiaries. And at the SSA, there's around 10,000 people daily working with the SSA that are being added on to the pile of people that it had to deal with before. And so, we got a real problem. It's not going to get fixed in the immediate sense. It's not going to get fixed in. So here's what I need you to understand. Okay, here's what I need you to understand. Something is going on with the budgeting here. Now, they also released an article recently that basically said the Republicans, they have a big budget increase for the Social Security Administration. So what it looks like what they're doing after they cut a bunch of people, 7,000 people, right? And then there's also an article here that talks about how they want to reduce the staff by 50% at the SSA, which is just how are you going to make it run? There's no way to make it run. There's no way to actually make it run at 50%. I mean, just imagine that. There's 72 to 73 million people receiving benefits. You have to do full-size adjudications at the SSA, full-size adjudications to decide if people are disabled. How are you going to make it run? You can't make it run on a 50% reduction of staff. You can't even make it run on a 7,000 person reduction, which is going to happen over the next couple of days. So when it comes to people saying, hey, to be fair, in this situation, it'll be okay. It's not going to be okay. It's going to be horrific. You're not going to be able to get people on the phone. You're not going to be able to get, a hold of people. It's going to be really bad. And there's going to be a lot of people quitting because they no longer believe the federal government has the capacity to go ahead and carry them. And the people that are going to stay are the only ones that believe that once there's been a mass clearing of employees, that there will be spots for promotion, which is the design of the Republican Party at this point. Republicans, okay, so why Republicans' budget has such a big increase for Social Security in 2026. This was published on February 27, 2025, 7:01 p.m. by Suzanne Blake. Republicans proposed a 21% increase for the Social Security budget from 2025 to 2026, marking a substantially higher uptick in the retirement program's funding compared to past years. The budget recommendations for the following years are also substantially lower than the 21% sought for 2025 and 2026. So what the Republicans are doing, specifically through Trump and Elon Musk with Doge, is they're basically setting this up. You fire a bunch of people and then more heavily fund what's already there so that when Frank Bisignano comes in, he can integrate using a bunch of technology systems, because I'm sure they've cross-checked with him to ask how much do you need to get your, private banking systems put into the systems at the SSA. Like, how much do you need to integrate this? What they're looking at is they're pump priming the system so that Frank Bisignano, the future commissioner who will come in, will have enough money to set up a lot of newer technology inside the SSA. That's what I believe is going to be happening here. All right. The budget recommendations for the following years are also substantially lower than the 21%. So here we go. Roughly 70 million Americans receive Social Security payments each month, and many rely on these funds for the bulk of their living expenses once they retire. Social Security Administration faces a funding shortfall, however, with money for full payments estimated to run out by the mid-2030s. It's not the mid-2030s. It's like 2032 now, because remember, they passed the Social Security Fairness Act, which makes those trust funds run out faster. In the Republican budget, lawmakers proposed a 21% boost to Social Security from 2025 to 2026. But from 2026 to 2027, the budget is set to only go up by 9%. In the following years, we will see smaller upticks of 6% until 2030. The budget proposal shows before 2026, the Social Security budget only increases in the 5% to 7% range. Higher inflation and steeper cost of living adjustments could account for the substantial budget uptick from 2025 to 2026. Experts say Social Security budget is constantly changing based on inflation, the number of beneficiaries, and any policy changes affecting benefits or payroll taxes. All right. So what they're saying is, Biden was a terrible, terrible economic president. Like, he did all the wrong stuff. He was not making us efficient on our own oil. He was supporting way too many other countries that need to stand on their own legs. He didn't really help us out with the petrodollar on an international trade scale, especially with selling a lot of our reserve petrol to China. He was absolutely inefficient, deficient when it comes to the reserve currency and protecting it. He wasn't good for farmers. He was just a shit show of shit shows of a president, and he just wasn't really there. He had a mental incompetence problem, and they just let it roll. So the bottom line is, with this whole situation, the economy's a shit show, and the people that get really hurt in a bad economy, it's the working class. It is. But even more so, it's the Social Security recipients. Even more so, it's the government employees. The government employees are set on that cost of living adjustment increase with their GS levels. Okay. And the Social Security recipients are set on that cost of living adjustment based off of basically, increasing their benefits as it becomes more expensive to live and eat. The greatest fraud in the nation against the American people right now is probably the cost of living adjustment math that they apply. It's total bullshit, and it's not realistic. You guys are seeing price increases of 2 times, 3 times. Under Biden's entire administration, it was 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times the cost of items that you normally buy is the labeled item that you purchased. And then, of course, they're giving you 8% here, 5% here, 3% here, stuff like that. Ridiculous increases based off of what actually happened in the marketplace. So the problem now is we have to examine what would actually be a collapse at the Social Security Administration. Because, a lot of you guys are thinking, oh, it's not going to get that bad. He's got control of this thing. Maybe, but we already knew the SSA had a major problem. They couldn't afford to actually do what their job was to do. So as a result of that, I don't think the Republicans fully understand what and how Social Security works. To be fair, Republicans tend to shy away from socialism-oriented things. They just kind of attack them. That's their wiggle-waggle with it. Whereas Democrats tend to, they're totally fine with socialism. They even lean a little bit into, the next level, which is, of course, what people really don't want, which is the government completely taking over, like North Korea level shit. So what you've got is essentially a problem where the American people need to start defining what is coming with the Social Security Administration. If we go by what I think is going to happen, okay, we can measure a collapse by an inability for us to fix claims that fall through the cracks. Okay, let me give you an example. Let's say you have 2,000 people apply for retirement benefits, disability benefits, whatever, any one of these programs or a mix of these programs. And then when they file for this, something happens to the file. There's a technological issue inside their system where they can't push it forward. There's some sort of problem where it's not showing up in the search query. It's not showing up on the calendar item. The tickler isn't bringing it to the front to go ahead and be processed. There's a problem. There won't be enough staff members to process regular claims, and there definitely won't be enough staff members to process claims that have a problem, to fix the actual claim. So what will happen to all this stuff is that basically that person will have to apply a reconsideration appeal and then basically an ALJ hearing appeal to get in front of an actual administrative law judge to fix the problem, where the judge, a federal judge, will have to order, will have to mandate that this thing be fixed. That to me is an example of a collapse. Another collapse that you might want to go ahead and consider is when phone wait times increase to basically 2 hours. You think it's not going to happen? I think it's going to happen. I think there's going to be a percentage of phone calls that are going to take 2 hours, and that percentage is going to increase over time. Real quick, Royalty 72, thank you again for the $3 donation. I super appreciate that. That's amazing, and a very cute little Furby there. Ed3, thank you as well for the $2 donation. Very cool. Got the little fox right there with the little hands up. I see Warrior, CRPS. Let's see what this is. Being mean on Walter's page is showing your intelligence level. Yeah, guys, if you want to pick on me, like, to be fair, like, I'm not your enemy here. I'm the one who shows you the shit show that's going on with the internals of the SSA so that you know what's coming. Like, when you think I'm trying to spread fear to you, we are living in a unique social security time. We are not living in a everything's cool, bro time. Not everything is super kosher and awesome right now. So, like, if you see me getting a little emotional, upset, a little worried, it's because things aren't going so well with the agency that I work with on a weekly, daily basis. So, I do, Warrior, I appreciate that. And thank you for the $5 donation. And also we have right here, we have Ashley B. That's awesome, with the little NES controller. Actually, no, that's I don't know, that's like a Game Boyish controller. I'm not, no, that might be a wireless controller. But thank you for the $20 donation. I super appreciate that. And again, guys, I'm probably going to use a lot of these donations for shadow surgery, so I'm just giving you a heads up about that. So here's the thing. Okay, another example of a collapse that I could potentially see at the SSA is that more offices will be closed. So I read another sheet, right, the other day where we talked about the 10-ish offices that have been closed, right? The field office locations, or, larger side offices and stuff like that. When you start to see another 10, right, when it's not about efficiency, they're just cutting it because they don't have the personnel to even, pay. They don't have the money to pay for, keeping the building open. They don't have the money to pay for the personnel to go there. When they, when their employees become work at home because they can't afford them and stuff like that, and we're not sure if they're going to actually get this increase. We're not sure if Congress is going to pass through this increase, right? But the bottom line is, when they're at that level, right, and they're shutting down like another 10 offices, you'll know that is a form of a collapse, because it is restricting your rights to be able to get access to the benefits that you've paid for all these years. Another thing that you have to kind of keep in mind is that, to be fair, right, when it comes to the Social Security Administration being able to go ahead and process initial applications quickly. So, with disability applications, it takes about 3 months for most of these states to go ahead and take it from the local field office and send it over to DDS, which is the group that then lets it sit in the developmental unit for, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months until they can assign it to an actual rep. When you see that 3-month period growing to 6 months, where it doesn't even leave the field office because they don't have enough people to process it, when you see it growing from 3 months to 6 months, that to me is a collapse. Because when that time grows, we'll see the 30,000 people dying every single year waiting for the disability benefits to be granted, growing to 50,000, 60,000, 70,000 people. To me, that is a collapse. Okay, that is a collapse of a system that we should have been able to have access to. Now, some people think a collapse, for example, is essentially where, let's call it like it is, all of the buildings just magically crumble. No, that's a war. A war and a collapse of a government agency are two different things. A collapse of a government agency is when it cannot effectively do the job that it was tasked with, which it already is at right now. It's already collapsed. We're just looking at how bad it's going to be over the next couple of months. Now, I want to give something to you with an idea just so that you understand the specifics of it. If Trump fires these individuals, let's say that it works out perfectly. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt idea, right? Because we kind of beat on him. Now we're going to give the other side Let's give the idea. All right. So let's look at this. If he fires these 7,000 people, right? And let's say that they are the low yield workers. The work product is not producing as much as other workers. So they fire these 7,000 people. Let's say that they then go and hire another 5,000 people to replace the 7,000 people that are better, faster workers. They're more efficient, etc. Let's say that they do that. Okay. The problem that you're still going to run into is that the SSA is underfunded because it can't afford more employees. It can't afford to hire people to train people. It can't afford people to replace spots that it's lost. It can't afford stuff. So unless Frank Bisignano has a lot of computer technology that will massively speed all this up at such an incredible rate and a cosmological, an astronomical rate, then you are going to be seeing the SSA having extreme problems. Now, what is the good benefit? What is the really good benefit that probably will come from this situation for, the disabled population, the retired population, the spousal widows population? The really good benefit is that they are very likely to reduce the amount of CDRs that they're doing because they're going to need every hand on, on new filings, on new this or new that. However, you have to consider it's a Republican-led administration, which means they may go ahead and super slow down initial applications so that people can't get through and just focus heavily on CDRs and auditing people. You don't know, right? OIG was heavily funded by both Democrats and Republicans, but Republicans really like the Office of Inspector General investigating people. So it might be a situation where they pull people off of doing CDRs and put them onto dealing with the backlog of over 1 million people waiting to be found disabled. Or it might be the opposite. They might say, you know what? We're going to just have people do a lot more CDRs to audit those who are on it and kick a bunch of people off of the benefits. You just don't know. You don't know the direction of where this thing is going to go with them. So now we know the SSA is going to be losing 7,000 staff members. They needed 30,000. They're losing 7,000. Now you know it's not just the SSA. The VA is losing 2,000 as well. Now you know that basically you're going to have functions at the SSA collapsing. To me, the administration has already collapsed, but you're going to have more functions at the SSA collapsing. At the end of the day, I just want you to be prepared. I'm not telling you this stuff to scare you. I'm telling you this stuff so that you are aware. Over the next 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, the SSA is going to be going through some very big changes. You're going to be seeing a lot of hyper automated stuff. You're probably going to see them switching away from mail, and most people will have to use email. You're probably going to be seeing them switch away from, communications with, live people, where you can call DDS and stuff. And most of it's going to switch over to like an email system or this or that, or whatever they can do to hyper speed it up. You're probably going to be seeing a chatbot that would allow people, sweetie, you're probably going to be seeing a chatbot installed on the website of I don't know, they're upset about something. They're probably going to install a chatbot specifically for essentially, people to ask questions and get answers directly from the SSA website that uses SSA code-based systems. They're going to try and hyper automate the shit out of this because at the end of the day, the United States government has decided that what you pay into your entire life is not something they want to invest into. And that's not good. And it's not fair. And it's going to hit you. And there's no way around it because it just is what it is at this point. Now, I do have a video with a bunch of fixes that Trump can do to fix the Social Security Administration. I'm going to be coming out with that in the not too distant future. I'm going to be taking today a little bit slower because I was up super late last night looking at the surgery stuff for Shadow. Please remember to go ahead and take care of yourself. Be safe. We do have some things on the horizon that look a little bit scary. I'm not talking about like the World War III stuff, but I am talking about prices of oil, prices of gasoline. I'm not sure if you guys have seen what's happened. There was a negotiation that happened, and basically Trump cut off a country from distribution. So just be aware of that. If you can, fill up your car now. It's going to be a good idea to get it done immediately, if you know what I mean. Also, I just want to do a quick shout out specifically to another person who donated, which was Ashley B, who donated $10. She asked in the question, Walter, where does all the money go that people who paid into the SS but died before getting the benefits? Basically, it just sits in the trust funds, which should tell you how shitty our ROI is, our return on investment. So the thing is, when people die, that money just gets sucked into the trust funds and stays in the trust funds. So basically, the SSA should be so in the green. It should be so massively profitable, but it's because the federal government has decided to give us such shitty, reinvestment systems, including these special interest bonds, where they basically borrow our money and then don't pay it back at a rate that's reasonable. Yeah, so basically, they should be, as a massive trust fund, the biggest trust fund on planet Earth because of how much people pay into it. It should be the most wealthy bank account on planet Earth. It's not, and that is the direct result of politicians basically over time stealing dollars and cents away from the American people and using it for their own little private whatever they want to do within the government, which usually is war stuff. That's the major money sucker. But unfortunately, now we're finding out it's all kinds of stuff, especially with supporting all these other nations with mostly fraudulent based activities. But there were some good ones in there as well that people relied on in other countries. But the thing is, we just can't afford it. 36 trillion in debt. Royalty 72, thank you for gifting somebody basically a membership. Chris Scott, welcome to the membership. Howdy, howdy. So I will catch you all a little bit later. You have an absolutely amazing, wonderful day. I will be live later tonight with a status update, but I just wanted you to be aware this is the problem that we are now facing as a community within the Social Security field. And so we're all worried. We're very scared, but I'll catch you a little bit later. You have a wonderful, wonderful day, and we will go from there. Thank you so much. All right. And please remember to like and subscribe. You know, some people forget to like and subscribe. Also, head over to Google, type in Disability Resolution Law Firm or Disability Resolution Florida. Throw some stars up there. We always appreciate it. And then also, with that said, if you want to catch up with me when I go live on Mondays and Thursdays to answer questions for free. Very simple rules. You get 5 to 7 minutes. Have your legal question ready. No story mode, no question stacking. And then also, if you need a bigger, like 1 hour private session, there's a mini contract below with all the instructions on it. I will catch you a little bit later. You have a wonderful night, and we will go from there. Thank you so much. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.